Welcome to Carlton's Math Corner. Today we are going to talk about order of operations. And before we begin, let's look at something that makes us smile. Learning is fun. And at this moment, please take out your math journal as well as your vocabulary packet. Our target today is I can evaluate expressions using the order of operations. And we need to review some vocabulary terms. The first one is evaluate. And we talked about evaluate when we were evaluating powers. And so just as a review, it just means to find the value of the answer. And what we're going to be working with is expressions, or we refer to them also as numerical expressions. And so remember these math sentences have numbers in them as well as operations. So like adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. And in order to perform those operations, we're going to use a particular order to do that. And to remember that order, we have a couple different ways to remember. The first way is to see like a visual, such as this pyramid. With this pyramid, we want to start at the top and then work our way down. Okay, so notice at the top we have grouping symbols, and what I mean by that are parentheses or brackets. So we're going to always do groups of numbers first. So if I see, these are called brackets, if I see them, what that means is there is an expression inside of that I need to do first. So there's like a math sentence that needs to be performed. So for instance, if I have brackets and inside there I have a math sentence, or we call them an expression. And this says 6 plus 3, and there's parentheses around it. So parentheses would come first. What this means is I'm going to do this math expression first. And I'm going to follow the order of operations, even just for this small part. Okay, so I'm going to do parentheses first because that's grouping symbols, 6 plus 3, and then I'm going to do times 7. Okay. After I've gotten rid of all grouping symbols, then what comes next are exponents. And we've been working with exponents the last 3 targets. We've been working with powers. And so anything with an exponent will come second. Our third step is to find anything that has multiplication or division in it. And notice they are on the same level and they have the same color because they are treated the same within an expression. We are going to do whatever comes first in the expression. So for example, if I was looking at an expression and it said 24 divided by 6 times 3, I would not start with multiplication first because remember we're treating these two the same. And so what we're going to do is we are going to read this expression just like we would read a book, a regular sentence. We're going to read it from left to right. So we're going to start off with the 24 divided by 6, and then we're going to multiply by 3. The same thing is true for adding and subtracting. Adding and subtracting, we're also going to treat them the same. And so if I have like 11 minus 2 plus 4, I will not do addition first. I will do whatever I see from left to right. And so I would do subtraction first and then add 4 afterwards. Now one way to remember this is, I know last year you guys were taught the acronym PEMDAS, and the P stood for parentheses. Well, this year we are introducing brackets as well, and so we're going to change it to GEMDAS because the G stands for grouping symbols, and now they're including parentheses and brackets. Now, one way to remember this is graciously excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That is one way to remember at least the order in which they come, or even just remembering this visual, this pyramid. Okay. What we're going to be doing is we are going to be evaluating expressions. So let's take a look at what an expression looks like. Here is an expression, and what I want you to notice is, first of all, there are quite a few different operations going on in here. We have division, we have subtraction, and the other thing that's going on is, do you notice we have this number next to parentheses? Well, do you remember when we talked about powers, and we had an example where it said 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and I said, well, we can show multiplication by having numbers next to parentheses. Well, this is the same thing. This number is next to parentheses, so it is actually multiplication that's between there. It's just secretly hidden, but there is multiplication here. So we need to basically go through these steps and we'll do it in order to find the answer, to evaluate it. So let's start off with step number 1, grouping symbols. Are there any grouping symbols? Yes, we have parentheses. So we're going to do 5 minus 1, and that's where the 4 comes from. And there are no other grouping symbols, so we're done. So the next step, and I'm going to actually put a check, exponents. Well, I don't see any powers, so I can skip this part. And there are no exponents. Next step, any multiplication or division. Well, remember they come in order, so there's multiplication and there's division. So remember it goes from left to right, whatever comes first, that's the one we do first. So we're going to do multiplication first. So 4 times 4 is 16. And we're done with multiplication. And then division, if you notice there is division, so 16 divided by 2, and that's 8. And then the last thing we have is adding or subtracting, and we already got rid of this subtraction because that was part of our grouping symbols. So that was done. So the only thing we have left is addition. So we have 10 plus 8, which is 18. Okay, how about the next one? I want to know, if this is my setup, I want to know, first of all, where did the 8 come from in step number 1? You are absolutely right. We need to do what's inside the brackets, and we need to treat this whole expression all by itself. And so do you notice there's an expression inside here? There's a math sentence, and we need to treat it by itself. So we need to do this entire pyramid with this expression alone. And so the 8 comes from doing the parentheses. So 4 times 2 is 8, and that's where the 8 came from. How about, where does the 4 come from on step number 2? Yep, it comes from exponents because that's our next step. So 2 to the second power means 2 times 2, or 4. How about the 12? Yep, whenever within this math expression, or this numerical expression, it has an addition symbol. And so we need to add 4 plus 8 to get 12. And then our last step, looks like we are taking 24 divided by 12, and the answer is 2. Number 3, where did these 8s come from? You are absolutely right. If you notice, we have parentheses, so we need to treat them separately. So we have 2 math sentences here, and we need to do them separately and use the pyramid as we go. So the first one, we have 3 plus 5, and that's 8. And the second one is 10 minus 2, and that's 8 as well. Where does the 64 come from? Yeah, 8 to the second power is 8 times 8, so that's 64. So 64 divided by 8, which is our last step, is 8. What I would like for you to do is, I want you to try a few problems on your own. So here are your ticket problems for tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining me at Carleton's Math Corner. I look forward to meeting with you again to learn a new target.